What happens when a simple party turns into a nightmare? In today's video, I'll share 4 bone-chilling true stories where friends' gatherings led to terrifying encounters with the unknown. From haunted houses to dark secrets that refuse to stay buried, you won't believe what happened next. Stay tuned, because these stories will leave you questioning everything. Let's get started. It was winter in Colorado, and a group of us decided to rent a secluded cabin in the Rockies for a weekend getaway. We were 10 close friends, most of us from college, and it was supposed to be a relaxing weekend with games, drinks, and snow. The first night, we cooked dinner together, drank wine, and played cards by the fireplace. Around midnight, someone suggested we go outside to take in the snow-covered forest. We grabbed our coats and stepped into the icy air. The stars were mesmerizing, brighter than anything I'd seen in the city. One of the guys brought out a flashlight, and we started exploring the edge of the woods, laughing and throwing snowballs. That's when we noticed something strange. Tracks in the snow leading into the forest. They weren't animal tracks, but human footprints, fresh and too large to belong to any of us. At first, we joked about it. "It's Bigfoot," one friend said, laughing nervously. But as we followed the tracks deeper into the forest, we all grew quieter. The footprints stopped abruptly in the middle of a clearing, with no sign of where the person went. No trail leading back, no disturbance in the snow. Suddenly, one of the girls screamed. When we turned, we saw her pointing toward the tree line. There, we spotted a figure standing completely still, partially hidden behind a tree. They were tall, wearing dark clothes, and we couldn't see their face. We didn't wait to find out more. We ran back to the cabin, locked the doors, and stayed awake the rest of the night. The next morning, when the sun came up, we searched the area. The footprints were gone, and there was no sign of anyone having been there. To this day, none of us can explain what we saw. A few years ago, my best friend decided to celebrate her 25th birthday in style by renting an old manor house in the English countryside. The place was stunning. Victorian-era architecture, grand halls, and even a library filled with ancient books. The party started off beautifully. We dressed in formal attire, drank champagne, and danced in the dimly lit ballroom. As the night went on, someone suggested we explore the house, claiming it was rumored to be haunted. We laughed it off and grabbed some flashlights, ready for an adventure. The upstairs was where things got eerie. As we walked through the long corridors, we noticed the temperature dropping. One room, in particular, caught our attention. The door was slightly ajar, and inside we found an old rocking chair that seemed to be moving ever so slightly. I brushed it off as a draft, but then my friend Sarah gasped. She pointed to the mirror above the fireplace, where we all saw a faint outline of a figure standing behind us. When we turned around, no one was there. Panicking, we ran back downstairs and tried to forget what we'd seen. But later that night, as the party died down and people went to bed, I heard faint whispers coming from the hallway. I assumed it was one of the guests, but when I opened my door, the corridor was empty. The next morning, we learned from the caretaker that the manor was known for its ghostly sightings, particularly in the room with the rocking chair. Let's just say none of us were eager to stay another night. Last summer, my friends and I visited Paris, and one of the highlights of the trip was a rooftop party hosted by a local friend. It was the kind of party you see in movies, overlooking the Eiffel Tower with fairy lights strung across the rooftop, and a DJ playing smooth house music. We arrived just as the sun was setting. The view of the Parisian skyline was breathtaking, and the energy was infectious. We mingled with people from all over the world, artists, writers, and expats who had made Paris their home. At some point, someone brought out bottles of champagne, and we toasted to the night. That's when things got interesting. One of the guys we'd met earlier started telling us about an urban legend in Paris about the ghost of Montmartre. He claimed that a ghostly figure had been seen walking the rooftops at night, looking for lost souls. As the night went on, someone noticed a shadow moving across the rooftops nearby. At first, we thought it was just someone from another building, but the shadow didn't move like a person. It glided, almost floating, and disappeared behind a chimney. We tried to laugh it off, but the mood shifted. A few people even left early, feeling unsettled. The rest of us stayed until sunrise, and when the first light hit the city, the strange feeling lifted. We never figured out what we saw, but it became one of the most unforgettable nights of our lives. It was supposed to be a quiet birthday celebration for my best friend, Lisa. A group of about 15 of us decided to rent an old farmhouse in rural Pennsylvania. The place had a rustic charm, wooden beams, creaky floors, and an eerie historical feel to it. We all joked that it looked like the setting of a horror movie, but none of us took it seriously at the time. The first night was perfect. We cooked, danced, and enjoyed drinks while sharing old stories. Around midnight, someone suggested exploring the basement. Lisa had mentioned earlier that the owners warned her not to go down there because it was unstable. Of course, that just made us more curious. We grabbed flashlights and ventured down the narrow staircase. The air grew colder the further we went. The basement was unfinished, with dirt floors and stone walls. In one corner, we noticed something strange. An old wooden door, slightly ajar. Behind it was a smaller room filled with what looked like antique farming tools, jars of unidentifiable liquids, and some faded photographs hanging on the walls. One of the guys, Mike, grabbed a photo to take a closer look. It was black and white, showing a family of 4, 2 adults and 2 children, standing in front of the same farmhouse. Something about their expressions was unsettling. The parents were smiling faintly, but the children looked blank, almost lifeless. That's when we heard it. A faint sound like shuffling footsteps coming from upstairs. We froze. Everyone was accounted for in the basement, so who could possibly be up there? Nervously, we made our way back upstairs, but the main floor was empty. Doors were locked, windows secured. Assuming we had spooked ourselves, we brushed it off and tried to enjoy the rest of the night. But the strange occurrences didn't stop. Around 2 a.m., one of the girls screamed from the kitchen. She claimed she saw a shadow move across the window, but when we checked outside, there was nothing there. Minutes later, the power went out. We lit candles and huddled together in the living room, trying to calm down. That's when Lisa noticed something on the floor, a series of muddy footprints leading from the front door to the middle of the room, and then disappearing. Panic set in. We decided to leave, but as we gathered our things, we heard a loud bang from upstairs. It sounded like something heavy had fallen. Against our better judgment, a few of us went to investigate. In one of the bedrooms, the antique wardrobe had toppled over, blocking the doorway. Scratched into the wooden surface of the wardrobe were 3 words: "Get out now." We didn't need any further convincing. We grabbed our bags, left the farmhouse, and drove straight home. Later, Lisa tried to contact the owners to tell them about what happened, but they never responded. Out of curiosity, I did some research on the property. What I found still gives me chills. Decades ago, a family had lived there. The same family from the photo we found in the basement. The father, in a fit of madness, had killed his wife and children before taking his own life. We all agreed never to speak of that night again, but it still haunts me. Every time I think about that farmhouse, I wonder, what would have happened if we had stayed longer?